Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our next episode of Behind Enemy Lines. It's that time of year. We're going to do a mid-season update. We're going to see where we at, where we're projecting to be. Steve and I are both going to do our own individual report cards on each of the players who we think is performing well and maybe who's not. As always, Steve is here and he's going to take it away with this week's trivia.
Well, it's as always good to be back. It's a pleasure. These things get more and more fun as the season goes on. We have news and notes to dive into. And you're right. We're going to talk about some projections, where we are, what we're doing well, what maybe we're not doing well, and how does that affect the team and the individuals. So, before I get into the trivia question, one of the stats we're going to look at is who's trending where. And we'll keep it relevant. Lane Hudson is on that pace for a point per game. He's getting close. So we'll make that the trivia question. When was the last time a Montreal Canadiens player had 80 points in a season? So we'll make it relevant based on that's kind of the benchmark, a point per game. Back in the day, that would have been a point per game average. So which Montreal Canadiens defenseman was the last one to do it? Bonus point if you can get the year without using the Google.
I couldn't get the answer even using Google, let alone let alone
Yeah,
not
this one
Google.
this one's a bit of a throwback because the guy played for so many years.
Yeah.
So there's a
And
little bit of a hint.
and he's not known as a point machine either. So
No,
yeah.
which is why it catches people off guard. And when we give the answer later in the episode, I want you guys to Google his statistics because you will be pleasantly surprised at some of his numbers in his
Yeah.
career.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, we're going to move on to our game preview slash breakdown. Sorry, game preview tonight. As the time recording this, in about an hour, Montreal will be taking on the Calgary Flames. Just a quick note, I believe, as you mentioned, Steve, earlier, Fowler is confirmed as the starter. Dustin Wolf is starting for Calgary. Um, you know, Calgary's kind of shitting the bed out west a little bit. I think I don't know what's happening. What do you expect?
Well, Calgary's a bit of an anomaly this year. They're either really hot or really cold. They like
Hmm.
streaks, good and bad. Hopefully, they don't. The only streaking they do is in their own dressing room tonight. So let's hope that we get a PG version of their effort and they can't compete with the big boys.
Hmm.
So, Dustin Wolf, like you said, starting goalie for Calgary last year, really gave Lane Hudson a challenge for Rookie of the Year. Came up short as Lane got stronger as the season went on. I won't say that Dustin got weaker, but as a team, we really elevated our play down the stretch. And when we made the playoffs, I think that was enough to put Hudson over the top.
Hmm.
Dustin Wolf has struggled this year. They've got another goalie in there that they just signed to another 2-year deal. And I won't say they're playing a 50-50 split, but they're probably not too far off that right now because they are trying to ride the hot hand. So I'm looking for a better 60-minute effort than we've had some games. And let's be honest, we talked about our last mini road trip, and we would have said, hey, if they came home with one win and three losses and an overtime loss, we'd be ecstatic because we went into some very, very tough opponents.
Hmm.
And, we beat a Tampa team in overtime, then beat Florida, then beat Carolina. We lost a game to St. Louis that we probably shouldn't have lost. And then we beat a strong Dallas team that's in a slump in overtime. So we come out of that with a 3-1-1 record. So, we're home first game back on the home soil. So looking for a good start. And
Hmm.
with Fowler and net, I think this could be his make or break game of the season. And the only reason I say that is we still have the proverbial three-headed goalie monster going on.
Hmm.
And at some point, something's got to break. We're not carrying these three guys. They all need to play for different reasons. The two Jakes need to play because they're young.
Hmm.
Monty needs to play to establish his spot here or trade value elsewhere.
Hmm.
So having the two young kids sit on the bench doesn't work. So if this is a game where Fowler loses, he ends up with a 3-3-2 record. I could see him being sent back to Laval. If he wins this game 5-0, we're gonna have a problem.
Hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I think I think what they're doing is they're giving Monty every chance he can to prove his worth, like you say, whether it's to keep the spot or for trade value. I think they're going to give him every chance they can. If they have to move somebody, which at some point, one way or another, they've got to move one. If they have to send a goalie down, it'll definitely be Fowler because he has waiver exemption that nobody can touch him yet.
As does Dobish, but
Yeah,
Dobish is our team leader in wins, and I
yeah,
don't know why
yeah,
you would send him down,
yeah,
right? I mean, he's earned his right to be here. So,
yeah.
um, I'm not saying that Fowler doesn't deserve to be here. He does. He's
Mhm,
played well. He's not been stellar. He's played well. He's
mhm,
got a 3-2-2 record, and he's given us good results when we've needed him to, but he hasn't blown the barn doors off the building yet, and that may be why give him more time down in the minors
mhm,
if we have to send somebody down. But let's one game at a time. We've been wrong before, so
mhm.
let's see how this one pans out.
Yeah. So on that note, just for everybody to know, in Calgary's last 5 games, they're 3 wins and 2 losses. Their most recent two games were the 2 losses. Um, just real quick here was 4-3 loss to the Predators, and then Monday night they lost 5-1 to Seattle. I'm hoping they're going to get 3 losses in a row, and I'm, as a homer, I guess I'm always going to predict Montreal to win, but I think this is one realistically they can and should win. I think the thing that's impressed me the most is Montreal's never quit, we're never out of it attitude, style of play. They always seem to be, it doesn't matter whether they're down 1 goal, 2 goals, 3 goals, they always seem the way to claw and scratch their way back in for a win. Tonight, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Montreal is going to take a lead and hang on to it for the win.
Yeah, our power play has been clicking on all cylinders. It's kind of floated around the top 6 or 7 for most of the year, and for a good stretch there, we had a 30% rating, which is phenomenal. I mean, that's 1 in 3. You get 4 power plays a game, sometimes 6. That's 1 or 2 goals,
Yeah.
which has been huge for us. That helps elevate, the overall. Teams don't want to take penalties, so then do they give us more 5-on-5 open looks? So if the power play is clicking, that we're a well-oiled machine, and if we can stay to the box the other way, good things will happen. And I will agree tonight. Good things are going to happen.
Okay, so let's jump in here. I'm going to bring up a graphic here, a couple quick graphics. Um, Basically, individual player, and team uh projections. Just I'm gonna hit a few of the highlights. Last year, Montreal, midway through the season, had at this point had 41 points and ended the season with 91 points. They had goals for of 245, goals against to 265, so they were a minus 20 at the end of the year goals, which I find is amazing that you can be minus 20 on goals, still make the playoffs. This year, right now, they're at 52 points. They're projecting to be 100 points. Right now, they have 141 goals for and 141 goals against. So, I mean, you just got to do the math. That takes you to 282 each, goals for and against projection. So, I expect that number to change. I don't expect that they're going to get into the plus in the goal differential, I think, by the end of the year. Any thought on the team projections before we break
Uh,
down a few of the players?
I agree with you 100%. I mean, we were 41 points this time last year, and then rattled off 50 in the second half, and we thought that was fantastic.
Mhm,
We're already 50 plus points already. So if you take the last full season of hockey, we're a 100-point hockey team.
mhm,
The last 40 of 41 of last year, and the first 41 this year, that's 100 points.
mhm,
That's a good stretch of hockey,
mhm,
and we can't argue with that. The I guess a surprising stat, like you said, we were negative in the goal differential, yet we made the playoffs.
mhm,
Should we be surprised? Yeah, it's shocking, honestly.
mhm,
But we're even keel now, and the only reason we're even keel is because we had a 3 or 4 game stretch where we gave up 7 goals one game, 8 goals one game, and we're only scoring 1 or 2. So we put ourselves in the shitter by 20 goals.
mhm,
We've now caught them back up. So as some of our injured players return, it's going to do one of two things. It's going to strengthen the overall top 6, top 12 forwards. or it's going to give us a plethora of talent and healthy bodies, and a trade is going to come. And if a trade comes, it's only to get stronger. It's moving out 3 parts to get one back, or moving out 5 parts to get two back. But we'll be in a position where we'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I suspect that the points we get now will trend in that same direction, which we called it at the beginning of the year. When you go back and do the review from one of the podcasts, we had Montreal near the top of the division, fighting for that century club, and we're on track.
Mhm. Yeah, and I don't think it's really that well, I don't think it's not a surprise to us. But some of the Toronto, typical Toronto garbage media, there's no way. Like I love hearing a lot of the experts saying that Montreal's not going to be there. Montreal's not the team, and some of them guys, I'll give them credit. They're fighting it right to the end. They're still not saying Montreal is the team that they are, and that blows my mind. Like over the last year, like you say, over the last calendar year, I believe they're the top five teams in wins.
Yeah, and let's be honest, those buffoons on the sports network or the Toronto Sports Network,
Yeah,
they have to say that or they don't have a job. If they don't suit that narrative, they don't have a
yeah,
job.
yeah,
And nobody wants to go work at Tim Hortons and screw up coffee orders. So you better toe the line, right? The
yeah.
corporate line has got to be rah rah, go Leafs, go kumbaya when things
Mhm.
aren't going well, and sit around the dressing room floor and in the fetal position, and at least soothe each other's souls.
Yeah.
But we said it right from the start of the year that we thought this is the year we were going to turn the corner. It doesn't mean parade. It just means we're turning the corner and ready to take the next step. And all indications based on individual specialty teams, team stats, we're definitely going that route.
Yeah. And when we talk turn the corner, you'll agree with me. I know you will, because we've talked about this, about taking the next step. Last year was a big step making the playoffs. I don't think anybody really expected that, and I didn't expect it. I figured they'd be battling right to the end for that playoff spot. I mean, I'm glad they made it. Um, I think the next step this year, realistically, is maybe winning a round, one for sure, maybe two, and then. But I still think we're probably 2 years out yet from being like the series, from being in, Colorado, Dallas kind of territory.
Colorado's a terrible hockey team, said nobody ever. Um,
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, there's you gotta crawl before you walk, and you gotta walk before you run. Um, Building a championship Stanley Cup team isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. You
Mhm.
got to go through a bigger process to get there. Why? Salary caps, injuries, hot streaks, cold streaks, milestones. And at some point, you become the target. When you're at the top of your division, you play all these divisional games. Every team is coming to you.
Yeah.
You got the target on your back, and they're coming arrows ablazing, trying to take you down. So we're in that mix now where we're battling at the top of the division. I don't know that we scare the life out of anybody for who we are, but we scare them for the potential that we can unleash
Mhm.
if they give us a chance. And that's the first step.
Yeah.
That's respect.
So before we get into each of our individual report cards, I'll let you go first with yours, but I'm going to bring this graphic back up here again about the season projections for the players. And I get, again, we're not doing the whole team because there's some, I don't want to be a jerk, but there's some players that just aren't relevant right now, and really don't uh fit into our projection numbers of what we talked about.
Yeah,
So
and it's of no disrespect to the Phil Deneaus or the Zach Boldukes. We're trying to focus on the core 8 or 9 that eat the most
right.
amount of ice, that
Yeah.
get the most amount of attention, and it's of no disrespect for the other players.
Right. So right now, last year, Nick Suzuki had 89 points. He's projecting right now to be over the 90 plus points for the year. Cole Caulfield had 70 points last year. He's projecting at 80 points. Demidov, obviously last year, being a rookie is not applicable, but he's on pace right now for 70 plus points as a rookie, which is phenomenal. Uri Slafkovsky, last year he had 51 points. This year he's projecting 60 plus points. And I made a little note there too with you'll see the asterisks and the two, over the last few years, he's been known as second half Slav. So, you know, that could climb to 70 for a couple reasons because he typically plays better in the second half. But I think with on the line with Deminoff and Kapanen now, I think they're going to get more regular rotations, more time together, and that's going to bring all their numbers up. So I see Slav getting 70 points, maybe 75, high 70s range, realistically. Kapanen's on right now for 40 plus points projection. Again, rookie, nothing to compare about last year. Lane Hudson is 66 points last year. He's projecting 80 plus points, which is phenomenal. Noah Dobson, with the Islanders last year, 39 points in New York. He's on pace right now to go 50 plus points. Mike Matheson, 31 points last year. He's projecting to be 35 plus points this year, which surprises me a little bit considering I wasn't even sure he was going to be on the team, but he signed 5-year deal, was it recently?
Yep.
6-year deal.
Yep. 5 year.
So he's here for a good run, and I think he's playing really well, and he's earned my trust back because I said before, I liked him. He was okay. I just didn't see where he fit in on the team, but he's fitting in. He's making his presence known.
Yeah, I think the biggest key, and you're right. I mean, we have a good handful, and you've given 8 or 9 names, and that's your core, right? They're your top two lines, your top 10 for lack of a better term.
Mhm.
And those are the horses that you hitch the wagon to. As much as I want Phil Deneau to be successful in his second stint with us, you're not winning a hockey game if you have to rely on Phil Deneau. He'll help preserve the lead and cement it in the end for his defensive efforts.
Mhm.
But you need the Caulfields and the Suzukis and the Hudsons to get the goals to put us in that position for starters.
Mhm.
So that's why we kind of went with those 9 names as we talked about it before. Those are doesn't mean that the other players that haven't been mentioned, it doesn't mean that they can't have monster second halves as well and hit career highs. And when we do our summary at the end of the year, by all accounts, if somebody gets a career high, I don't care if it's a 20-point season. If that's a career high, we're going to give a shout out to them because that's an achievement.
Yeah, they earned it. Yeah. So what I'm
So
going to do? Go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
so again, no disrespect if your favorite Hab player didn't get mentioned.
Mhm.
And I will eat a tad bit of crow while we're talking about trends. And you talked about Mr. Matheson. I'm not a big fan of Sam Montembeau. I will rag on him all day long, but let's be honest, his last 2 games have been top notch.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
that last game, he was standing on his head.
yeah, so I will give credit where credit's due. Now, again, if he lets in 7 goals in the next game, I'm booking his bus ticket to Laval personally.
Yeah.
But I will give credit where credit's due.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, Steve, is we're going to go with your report card. I'm going to bring the graphic up here real quick.
Overall, as a team, we're winning hockey games. We're winning more than we're losing. It's hard to find fault in a lot of guys, honestly.
Mhm.
There are some that have exceeded expectations and some that haven't. Um, and this isn't based, when you pull up my report card, don't it's not Mr. D. It's not a comedy version of this. This is a semi-realistic perspective of what have they done through the first 41 games. So on my forward list, I have 2 forwards that have an A+ mark. That's Suzuki and Demidov. These aren't based on last year's statistics. These are what have they done this year.
Mhm.
The 2 of them have been offensive juggernauts. They have kept us in games and have scored big goals.
Mhm.
Have they exceeded expectations? No, they've just been exceptionally solid game in and game out. And there's not been any dips and lulls in what they're doing. I gave Cole Caulfield an A. He's been streaky in my opinion. He went 9 games or 8 games without a goal. He's a goal scorer. We need goal scorers to score goals. You score every 2, 3 goals, two goals here, a goal there, and you do that consistently. That goes from an A to an A+ by the end of the year. So not any disrespect to Cole because he's been very good for us.
Mhm.
20 goals at this point in mid-season. He's on pace to break his 35 goals. That puts you 40 to 45 goals at the end of the year. So again, trending in that right direction. Slav and Kapanen, I've got it as A- players. Again, we don't they're both young players, like most of the team. Kapanen is a rookie, got off to a good start, then seemed to go invisible for a few games, and then seems to get 2 or 3 points, misses a game, 2 or 3 points. So kind of inconsistent. I'd like to see a little bit more balance out of his offensive game. And when I say offensive, it's not his total game; it's just his offensive game. If you're going to be the number two centerman on that line, you need to contribute a little bit more because the other two guys are. Slav is scoring, Demidov scoring. You're the center. You're the centerman on that line. Slav, again, kind of a hit and miss slow start. Started the top line, went down to the second line, went back up, now is back down, and has found lightning in a bottle. And like you said, second half Slav, if he holds true to that, look out because he is turning himself into one of the elite power forwards. He has been exceptionally strong on the puck. At times is trying to do a little bit too much, but that's every player when faced with adversity and down a goal. I have a group of forwards in the B area. I've got Bull Duke and Evans as B players. They're reliable. Bull Duke, I would like to see more from, but he's young. It's really only his second full year in the league.
Mhm.
He's bounced up from the first line down to the third line, back up, back down, fourth line. So, I'd like to give him a better grade. He got off to a great start, 4 goals in 4 road games to start the year, which is, tied a Montreal record. Um, Dano, I gave him a B. I know he hasn't been here that long and played that many games, but he's 60% the face-off dot. That's why we brought him in. He's giving us a little bit of a calm presence on the penalty kill. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for what he's done in his career and what he's doing now, and he's meeting that expectation. Anderson and Texier, I gave B minuses, not because they don't deserve higher. I just I just don't get enough out of them. Texier's been a surprise. He's been pleasant, but he got some time up on the top line, and I won't say he's been stellar. He just hasn't been that lightning in a bottle that I hoped he'd been. I think he's 8 points in 12 games, or 8 points or 9 points in 14 games, or whatever. So, I mean, he's doing well. You hope that trend will continue. Anderson, if it wasn't for his efforts on the penalty kill, that mark would probably be lower because here's a guy with all kinds of talent that isn't giving you for the money that he's getting paid.
Mhm.
And then I have two forwards, which I will give them a passing grade because we're winning. It's easy to hang your hat on a guy when he's not doing something. I gave Valeno and Gallagher C's. They're doing just enough to stay here, just enough to be semi-relevant, but
Mhm.
one of them is trending to go way down, and the other one's trending to help them.
Yeah.
So,
So on my report card, I was a little more generous in some areas and I was a little harder in some areas. I had basically the top five: Suzuki, Demidov, Caulfield, and Slav, uh, and Kapanen. I gave them all A pluses only because I mean Suzuki. Uh, if he's not the Selke Trophy winner this year, somebody doesn't know hockey. I've heard couple interviews and a couple polls with GMs, and they're saying that who's your top three votes for the Selke Trophy, and they've all said basically it's Suzuki, and there's nobody else in the conversation. And we all know what he does for the team. We all know he's a great leader. Just recently was named to the Team Canada roster, so he's gonna, he's projecting to get more points. You know, this year than last year. Can he push the 100-point mark? I think he can. I don't think that's out of reach. Demidov, Kapanen, and Slav, they've been, on fire since they've been put together. You know me, Kapanen, I've been on the Kapanen bandwagon since day one. I've said from beginning he should be the 2C. I think he's earned the spot, and I think he's gone way above expectations. That's why I give him the A plus. Caulfield, I give an A plus. Just simply, he's doing what he does. He scores goals. And he gets the big goals. It's not like he's scoring the empty netters. He's getting the goals that are tying the games. He's getting the goals that are winning the games. And some of them goals he scores from those down low angles, there's not too many people can pick that corner like he can. Anderson, I gave the B minus. Excuse me, I gave the B minus, and I think pretty much for the same reasons you did. He's a big body. He plays well in situations where they put him in that he can use his size and what his skills are. But I just kind of expected a little more. offense from him, a little more drive, I guess. And since day one when we got him, I've expected that, and that hasn't happened for 4 years, 5 years, however long it's been. Texier I gave an A to only because I looked at it in the sense of when he was brought in as a project, as a gamble, I guess you could say. And I think it's worked out well. He's not going to score 40 goals this year, but he's going to help a lot of the other players around him be better. He's quick. He's very fast. He's got pretty good vision on the ice, and he makes things happen. Deneau, I didn't give a grade to only because he's been here, what, 3 games, 4 games now, and I just didn't think it was fair to grade him on that. But like you say, he's 60% in the face-off circle, which is really why we brought him in. So, I got to give him kudos for that. Bolduc and Evans, I both gave a B because they're, again, I don't have over ambitious expectations of what they can do for us. I think they're pretty much just doing what they're supposed to do, maybe a little bit below. They could be a little bit better. Veleno, I gave a D because I don't see him. I honestly don't know why they play him. And I know I may be alone in this one, but I think the Veleno experiment's over. Gallagher, I gave a D minus. And I hate to do it because I love the guy. He's a Hab at heart. He's a lifetime Hab, and everybody rallies around him. But, you know, he's slowing down. He's getting old. All his injuries and his style of play are catching up with him. But I didn't give him an F because there's nobody you want to go into a fight with. He'll drag you in there and he'll give everything he's got till he can't breathe no more. And that's got to account for something as far as I'm concerned. So that was my forward grades. I don't know if you want to comment on if you got any.
No, I mean we're marginally off on a few players and bang on the numbers as far as the other players. So I mean for different reasons, obviously you're going to see somebody in a different light than I am. Galley again, he's the one that worries me for all the same reasons you just said.
Mhm.
He is a guy who has been the heart and soul of this team when we were bad. He has block shots, some from his own teammates. Shea Weber, I think, has injured him 3 times. And, if there's one guy you don't want to get hit by a puck, it was Weber. And that sucker's got a broken hand. I was there in Dallas when he took one off the hand and it pretty much shattered 3 fingers. And I mean, and he gets back on the ice. He gets cross checked in the mouth. He's smiling, blood pissing out all over the place. He goes back, puts a gauze pad, in his mouth, a tampon up his nose, and he's ready to go back out. He's the guy you want.
Mhm.
But age, speed, ability, and salary, it's starting to kill us.
Mhm. Yeah, and
You know,
reality's
and
got to
and
kick in at some point.
and Veleno is. I don't know that he's got a bailing bucket in the Titanic with Galley right now, but he's not doing himself any favors. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we'll jump back now. I'm going to bring yours back up, and why don't you hit on your defenseman?
So the defense core overall, this defense core really gets an A overall as a collective group. I have Hudson at an A plus, and how could you not? As a rookie last year, 68 points, and he's going to blow the doors off that. And everybody talks about a sophomore jinx, and there was a lot of other blog writers and professionals that said, well, he got lucky. Nobody knew what he was
Mhm.
and he scored 68 points and he's tiny and he can't possibly do this again. And this kid, even though he would have to go to a bar in Montreal, said, hold my beer. And he's putting up big numbers. As the Hudson train gets a rolling, it's just more and more and more exciting. And
Mhm.
he definitely gives every forward up in the slot, gives them more chances to get points. I gave Matheson a solid A because he has met expectations. He has changed his style of play this year, which has been pleasantly surprising. He is not trying to go end to end like he has in years past. He can skate, we know that, but it doesn't mean you have to do it every time you're on the ice. And now that he's dialed in his ability versus expectations and reality, he's been a very good player for us. That's why he got the contracts extension that he got. He claims he left some money on the table. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but he's on a very affordable, friendly salary considering where salaries are going. Dobson, I gave an A minus. Had you asked me quarter of the way through, that might have been a B plus. I give him an A minus now. He is playing a lot better. He's starting to be more physical, starting to block more shots. He's up there with the leaders in shots, and I bet you that's been a 60% increase from the first half of the year. And he's not turning the puck over of late like he did in the beginning of the year. So I give him an A minus. Carrier has been a regular, steady guy throughout the first half of the season. He's not scoring a ton of goals. He's not going to block you a ton of shots. He's not going to lay out a bunch of people, but he'll take the body, make his play. You get a consistent effort out of him. Jack Guy and Engstrom, I gave B minuses. Only because Engstrom's a rookie. We don't have a complete body of work. He's got some skill on the offensive side. I think he's soft defensively as far as clearing people out and getting the physical attributes down. And maybe that comes when he adjusts to the pace of play week in and week out. Jack, I'll give a B minus to. That might have been a C halfway through the first half. Was trying to do too much. And now that he's settled in, knows his role, he's getting better at it. His first pass has been a lot better. His minutes are going up, and he's recognized that if he just does what he's supposed to do, he'll be a much more reliable player.
Mhm. Okay, so on mine, I had a little, excuse me, a little bit of different numbers. Again, I was probably a little more generous than you. Um, I had, I'm just going to bring it up here. Hold on. So I had Hudson and Matheson both as A pluses. Uh, Matt Hudson, you said it all. I don't think we really need to rehash that. I mean, if you don't know anything about Hudson now, then you're missing out on watching one of the great players of our era play the game, and he's only second year in. Matheson, I think his just game has been rejuvenated. I think the idea of him, contract security, a number he likes, security staying at home, playing with a group of guys that he likes, like these guys are all good friends. I think his performance has earned him the A plus. Um, Dobson, I gave an A. Basically, with a lot of the defensemen, I looked at it a little bit different too. I must clarify. I didn't look at I looked at the defense as a little bit different even than the forwards. I looked at the player as what was my expectation of what they were going to bring the team this year and what's a realistic expectation. I'm not saying Dobson's the greatest defenseman ever. I know he has his flaws, but I looked at the whole package of what he brings to a team to make a team better and make the players around him better and what his flaws are. If you can find that balance of what you're willing to accept for your flaws, of what he brings to make the team better. I think that's why I gave him an A. I know he has flaws. I know he's not the perfect defenseman, but I think his overall game is an A game, that he does so much more for the team than just scoring points or doing whatever. I think his overall package is an A. Uh, Carrier, same thing. Carrier, again, he was never signed going to be that top four defenseman. I believe he was signed to be you know, a fifth defenseman type guy, but could play up in the third, fourth spot if needed and could handle it and not be a liability. I think he's done that capably. I think he maybe has tailed off a little bit. That's why I've given him a B over last year. Jack, I gave a B as well because I think he's doing exactly what he's there to do. He's there to, play some minutes. He's not going to be 20 minutes guy. He's probably in the 10 to 12 minutes a game, the odd fight here and there. I would have given him an A if he had fought a little more. And in fairness, I don't think that's him. I think that St. Louis is reeling him in and keeping him back. I think I could give him an A if they let him play and let him be Arbor Jack guy. I I I liken it to, when a man and woman first start dating, and a woman says, "Oh, he's not perfect, but I can change him." No, 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 no. That never works in relationships, and I don't think it works in hockey. You can't change a player. You can make him a better player, but I don't think you can change his style of play. If they unleash him and let him play the way he can play, he would be far better off again. But you have to be able to accept some of the downfalls that go with that. But I think the upside is much more rewarding than what you would get in the downfalls. Angstrom, I gave a B only because I think he's only got 11 games this year, and it's kind of really hard to do, a true report. But I don't think he's hurt us. But I don't think he's really done anything excelled. I think he's earned a spot, but I don't think he's done anything that's separated him from the rest of the pack down in there. Struble, I gave a C because I think he's having a hard time fighting for a spot, finding minutes, and he's just kind of right now seems to be the odd man out. And again, maybe no fault of his own because of limited playing time and things like that. Maybe it's not fair, but I just don't think he's taken advantage of the chances that he's been given.
Yeah, and I didn't mention Struble. I gave him a C as well.
Mhm.
Um, only because I expect more of him because he does get the opportunities. If you quietly look at his numbers, he's up there around that 14-minute mark, 15-minute mark a game. And he's a tough guy. He doesn't hit people nearly hard enough. He's a relatively tough guy. He doesn't fight people near enough. So you've got only so many tools in the tool bag and you don't use them.
Mhm.
If you're going to a construction site and you can relate, you don't bring your hammer from Walmart. That's what this guy is doing.
Yeah.
You know, you bring your Estwing hammer, bring a Milwaukee tape measure,
Mhm.
bring a tool bag that's equipped with the tools and use them properly. He doesn't do that.
Yeah. Well, again, and I think Strubal's in sort of the same position as Jack Eye. Again, I don't want to throw anybody on the bus, I don't, or under the bus, I should say, whether it be Jack Eye, Strubel, Angstrom, or whatever. I think it's a little bit of both. I think as the players, they need to step up and grab a hold of their moments. But I think again, I think St. Louis is holding Struble back, I guess you would say. He's not letting him be that hard-nosed full defense. And I think St. Louis is just afraid of taking penalties. I think that's what the problem is. And he would
Well,
rather hold them back to not take a penalty than to let them be the good that they can be.
I'm willing to, and you're right. I mean, 100% accurate statement. I'm willing to let them take penalties, but we got to improve the penalty kill first
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
that's not been our strong point.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's cause for concern for that, and the rhyme and reason of that statement is 100% accurate.
Yeah.
As you said, some players just aren't given the full leash to do their job, and that's why we don't get the best of them. And
Yeah.
and you made some great examples.
And hopefully, Deneau is going to be a big part of that solution. I think Evans is done till March or something like that, is he not? Something like so.
He's due back after the Olympic break as his new hook. New hook's right into March.
Yeah.
Line A is skating. Gooley is skating. Doc is skating. Doc had a minor setback.
Mhm.
So we'll see where that takes us.
Yeah.
But I didn't include any of them in any of my
Yeah,
report
I didn't either because
because they're hurt
they've probably
and who
played 20
knows.
games between them. So,
Yeah.
um, okay, so let's jump in then. We'll go right on to goalies. What do you got for your goalie scores?
Okay, so my goalies, I was a little hard on one, a little lenient on the other, because I'd like to be harder. So let's explain. I gave both Dobish and Fowler B's. Dobish is leading the team in wins. Should he get an A? Possibly. Um, he's been good and really good at times, but he's been average and
Mhm.
I won't say below average. He's been average at times. I love his passion. He cried after a game. I don't want to see every player cry when they lose, but it just goes to show that in that moment, he's got so much desire to prove this team well and do well for them that he doesn't want to let them down. And that's a guy playing for the big C on the front and not the little name on the back. And that's what you want. You want your team to give a shit. And he does. Um, so I gave him a B just because a little bit of the inconsistency factor when Monty was struggling. I don't know why St. Louis didn't give him more back to backs or more three in a rows early in the season when he was rolling. But that's the mystery of Marty St. Louis.
Mhm.
Uh, Mr. Fowler, the second Jake the Snake, I gave him a B only because he's got a 3-2-2 record. And in 20 minutes, he's going to take the ice for the next game. He hasn't. He's been good. He's not been great. He's not. He's not. He's got one shutout, which again, kudos. But there's been no effort where we said, "Hey, that was all goaltending." When he got a shutout, it wasn't solely him. We played well as a team. You know, he got us one game, I think, against Pittsburgh where we came back, but we were down 4-1, came back and won the game in overtime. And he was a goalie of record. So he salvaged one, but that was a game he wasn't great in. So I gave him a B as well. And I had to give Monty a C minus only because he has struggled immensely this year.
Mhm.
It had you asked me 2 games ago, it would have been a D for sure
Mhm.
because he was struggling to find an identity. He started off the year playing okay, then he got inside his head that for some reason he was not an NHL style goalie, caliber goalie, and struggled at the AHL level before they pulled him up. They gave him a stern talking to, I'm going to say, and a healthy dose of reality. In the last 2 games, he's played well.
Mom and dad
I
grounded him because of his report card.
Yeah, yeah. So he probably hid that in his book bag so his mom didn't see it.
Forged the
Uh,
signature.
yeah, yeah. Changed it with a Sharpie and
Yeah.
signed his dad's name to it. But you know, overall, I still gave him an above average because he's floating right around that 500 record.
Yeah.
So I gave him an above average grade on that. And I imagine yours are going to be similar but slightly different because this is the great thing about it.
Yeah. And again, we're pretty close. I was a little generous on one and a little hard on the other. Um, Dobish, you gave a B. I gave a B as well. If he had have been, again, if he had have grabbed a hold of his opportunity, he could have been the everyday starter. But again, like you say, should he have got a couple of them back to back? Should he have strung together a few more games for him to play? Maybe that's what he needed. I don't know. I don't think it's a confidence issue. But I just think he's not like he's close, but he's not quite there to get in the A. I gave him a B, not because he's bad. I don't think he's bad. I just think he needs to take another, step up another level. Fowler, I gave an A simply because one, you and I both said, if at the end of the season he gets called up for 1 or 2 games, that would be great. But because of the situation wherein he got called up earlier, and to me, he played far beyond my expectations as being so young, rookie goalie, throwing him into the fire, which is the Montreal marketplace and media and everything. And I think he's handled it superbly. So for that alone, I would give him an A, but he's got good numbers too. It's not like he's struggling, in the sub 900 save percentage and, over 3 goals against. He's handling his own NHL numbers for really a rookie goalie, and I think he's earned the A in my opinion. Sammy, I gave him a D minus. I would have given him an F, except, like you said, lately he stood on his head that last game he played phenomenal, making saves that he had no business making, but he did
I think
anyway, right?
I think he was wearing Dobish's jersey, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, Montembeau, listen, you've heard me say it before. I jumped off the Montembeau wagon long ago. Um, I think it's time for him to go. But again, as we've had this discussion several times, where do you move him? Where do you put him? If we don't like him, who else wants him, right? You're not going to sit down and say, oh, you got the shittiest goalie in the league, but we're not Toronto fans.
Give us a first round draft pick for
Right. That's only Toronto fans do that stuff.
him.
So overall, our goaltending, I would say definitely a B, maybe a B plus overall. Again, could it be better? Absolutely. But we're winning with the way it is. So, what else can you say? Like, I mean, you know, you're not losing because of them, but you could be winning more games if they just a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit more consistency when we needed it. I mean, again, we touch base on it. We went through a 4 or 5 game stretch where, let's be honest, we had our asses handed to us, embarrassing most of the time. But here we are, halfway through even keel. We've cut on the differential. We've bailed ourselves out of that one. So that comes with goalies staying in there, finding their groove, and helping us out. So the two Jakes have done a great job of that, and Monty lately. So I would agree.
And I just want to sum up, we'll just hit quickly on injuries. For those of you that may or may have not noticed, and I don't want our dozens of viewers to misunderstand what we're doing here. I know we didn't have Jake Evans on our injured list, but I need to tell you guys watching that we did that on purpose because Jake Evans had had enough of a block of games
Yeah.
to make a report. I believe he's played what 34 or 35 games this year. Let me check.
Yes.
34.
Yeah, he's in the low
He's
30s.
34 games he's played
Yeah.
this year. So Steve and I figured that that was enough to give him a mid-grade report without actually putting him on the injury list. We know he's injured, so don't comment. You guys don't know what you're talking about. He's injured, whatever. We know
Yeah,
he's hurt.
and the same parameter, we could have gave Kirby Doc a report card. I would have gave him an A for
Mhm,
the games he played because he was starting off really well. I would have gave Newhook an A+ for the
mhm.
games he played because
Yeah,
he was off to a career season. But really, not enough. A 5 game bender or 7 game bender doesn't make a season.
yeah,
So, that's why we kind of left them off.
yeah.
What,
But we do want to touch a little bit on the injured players, though. Like
yes,
just briefly, not like so. Basically, let me see here. Newhook has played 17 games. Doc has played 15 games. And we just talked about Evans. He's played 34 games. Uh,
Line A is the other one.
Patrick Laine, I don't see. Has he played any games
I
here?
think he played 4 games or 6 games.
Patrick Laine, 5 games. So one assist in 5 games. So basically, I mean, is it fair to give him a grade? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, injuries are a funny thing. It does a lot of stuff. New Hook, like you said, I think is out till March, right?
He's
Uh,
out till March. He's the one that's currently going to be out the longest.
yeah. And Patrick Laine, you said is skating again.
He is skating. Gooley is skating.
But
And for those,
when's Line expected to return? Is he like because last night it's month to month? I'm hearing.
yeah, I think he's after the Olympic break. He had core muscle abdominal surgery. I mean, he had pretty major surgery.
Yeah,
Probably tried to play through it, which is why he looked so terrible at the beginning of the year
yeah,
because he wasn't even shooting the puck. I went back and watched some highlights from the beginning of the year. He looked awkward.
yeah.
He's a big guy who doesn't skate exceptionally fast, anyways.
Mm,
So at this point, we're in no rush to get him back. If all these guys got healthy tomorrow, we're in trouble
yeah,
because we have way too many people under contract.
yeah.
You
And
know,
and to put it in perspective, I've had a partial tear of my abdominal muscle, and people, unless you've had it, you don't realize how much your body as a whole depends on that for anything. I mean, if you've got that tear, partial, full, I mean, he's had it bad enough where he's need to have surgery. You know, try to bend over and pick something up and see how bad you need that muscle then. I'm telling you, it's not something to mess around with, and I don't think people give you the understanding, I guess, of what it really means. And I will be honest, I trashed Line, and you defended him pretty much. I don't want to say defended him from day one, but I believe you had said something's wrong with him. Let's wait and see before, you know, before we throw him under the bus. But not this guy. I threw him under the bus pretty quick, right? So I'll give you credit on that one, Steve.
yeah. Well, again,
But he still gets
hey,
hurt a lot, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, and that's because this is the second time he's had an injury like this where
mhm,
he's missed large parts of the season. That's concerning
mhm,
because at some point he's going to return and say, "Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play,"
mhm.
and we are going to have an issue,
Yeah,
right? Because at some point you either find room or you find a plane ticket for him.
yeah,
And at the money that he's getting paid, I don't really know that we're dealing him elsewhere unless we're taking on somebody else's bad contract. And we have one of those,
yeah,
Brendan Gallagher.
yeah,
So
exactly.
we can't dive into too much more of that. It's a wait and see. Let's hope that he gets back to some form of his old self because he scored a lot of power play goals for us
Mhm.
last year.
And then I think next on our list, Kirby Doc is listed as day to day still. I know he's skating. I'm not sure if he's expected to be back, end of the
Not
month
before,
kind of
not
thing.
before the Olympic break. I don't think. I
Okay.
think he might be right before the Olympic break. They said he was another 7 to 10 days out. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah. And Jake Evans, I don't know, we talked about it. He's listed as week to week. Um, uh, Josh Anderson, it says Josh Anderson's out now, upper body day to day. I'm not sure what happened there. This is new development, I guess. But Caden Gooley, I think, is the most pertinent one. He's day to day. There was speculation he was going to play tonight, and then I heard they were going to push it back till tomorrow night. But the people that I've talked to or watched basically suspect he's coming in Saturday's game.
I don't want to see him rush back. I mean, I'd rather give him the extra couple of days, get these two games out. We play Detroit on Saturday, so it's a big game. I'd rather have him ready to go with a couple extra good hard practices, be
Mm,
around the team, the game day mentality. We play Calgary tonight, which they are a Western team, play a little bit tougher overall as a team,
mm,
and then we have Florida tomorrow, which is a mixed bag of tricks because they've got a couple major injuries, and the Rat didn't finish the game against Toronto. Apparently, he's been playing through an injury that's not getting any better. So there's a good chance we don't see Mr. Marchand tomorrow. So that kind of takes us through the list of players, the list of injuries, and where they're at.
mm.
What we didn't get into, I will ad lib and throw this in there. I think our power play is definitely an A. If I was giving the power play a grade, the penalty kill, I give a B plus. Um, we're not the top of one and we're not at the bottom of the other. The penalty kill is getting better. Matthew Philip Deneau should help that. That should bring more balance to that. We were a doormat to a few teams on the penalty kill in the early part of the season, but that is getting better. And the only other place I'll touch base on quickly, the coaching staff, I will give them an A minus. You're not contending near the top of the division, top of the conference with a goal differential at zero without having some good coaching decisions. We can question some of the bad ones because some of them I still don't understand. But overall, I have to give the coaching staff an A minus.
Yeah, I could agree with those ratings as far as, or sorry, grades on the report card. Um, I,
And I will give the general managing team of Hugo, I will give them an A plus because they've been
oh,
bang on.
for sure,
You
they've
know,
been
there,
all
there's
over it.
they can have an A plus plus.
Yeah.
And just quickly, they have made some good signings, good value, good term to give us flexibility for a good number of years, all with young people. They have established a culture of people wanting to play here. And the couple of projects, Texier's a prime example, who was thrown away by St. Louis, chose to come to Montreal, wanted to be here.
Yeah.
They are developing a culture where players want to be here, and we will get into that. That's going to be one of our upcoming episodes. The change of culture of the Montreal Canadiens because it's
Mhm.
changing.
Okay, with that, that's going to conclude today's discussion. You got any final thoughts you want to throw in the wheel?
No, I mean, this is a statistically based projection based on where we were at the beginning of the year. These players are playing well, so if they put up the same effort, these numbers they should be better at the end of the year. They should double. Caulfield shouldn't have 20 and 20. He should have 25 and 30, or 25 and 45.
Yeah,
Or 40 and 45. He should go more than
yeah.
that. And as this team gets healthy, we were scary the first 12 games of the season. Once we return to that, this team could be a well-oiled machine. And, Gordon and Hughes have done a good job making good trades and for good reason. And they're not prepared to throw the future away just to get a rental player.
Yes, they didn't
Dobson was
panic.
Dobson was probably their biggest trade because we gave up back-to-back first-round picks to get him.
Yeah,
So two first rounders, and one of them ended up being Kayshawn Atchison, who played on the Team Canada Juniors from Barrie. He
yeah.
was one of those picks. So we gave up Emil Heineman, who's having a great year. But to get, you got to give, and we gave to get, and I'm happy with the get. Overall, I still think we win that trade.
Yeah. I think my biggest concerns, I guess, is a good concern, a good problem that we're in right now. As we've talked about certain players coming back, Gooley's going to be coming back, uh, within the next week, I would say. I don't want him to go into a top four spot. I want him to play six, seven spot, ease into it, see where we get to. Like you say, don't rush him into it, don't rush him back, or, there's potential to aggravate something. But give him time to catch up to speed. Once he comes back, I'm hearing Kirby Doc could be back by the end of the month from different people. And if they do, does he go on the top line with Suzuki and Caulfield? I mean, logically, that makes the most sense. Um, I'm off the Kirby Doc wagon as well. I just want him to be gone. You can be the greatest player in the world, but if you're hurt and missing 60 games a year, that means nothing to me, right?
You're
Um,
not wrong. You're not
but
wrong.
but when he's in there, if he's producing and can stay healthy, then sure, I would like to see that. Maybe he's that third guy that gives that first line the lightning in the bottle that the second line has. Um, Again, I think we're projecting in the right place. I would agree that players' individual stats could more than double based on uh, what they're doing, familiarity, more ice time, things like that. Um, I don't see any reason why we don't get 100 points this year. And I'm going to go out on a limb. And maybe this is the hot take of the episode. I think Montreal gets the first round playoff home advantage this year. I think they've just played well enough to get that.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. We're getting stronger and healthier. And some of these teams like Detroit, who's just ahead of us, and Tampa, who's leading the division. Tampa's had some injuries, so good for them. Detroit hasn't, and they're just above us, and I think we have a game in hand. So, 100 points. You're right. We're knocking on that door plus some. If we get
Yeah,
hot in the second half, that could be 106 points, 108 points.
easily. Yeah. Okay, so let's jump back right to the trivia. Give us the answer,
Trivia.
Steve.
So, last Montreal Canadiens defenseman to essentially average a point a game, 1985-86. The Big Bird, Larry Robinson, had
Wow.
82 points.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's you go back and look at his statistics, and he had one year like he was a plus 100.
Mhm.
Like just you just wouldn't think that he was that guy. Um, he was a strong man. Like he was
Yeah.
big and he played big. Had a long career. So Larry Robinson, sort of an unsung hero in a lot of ways for his value, but he had an 80-point season. So the big bird.
Yeah. And you talk about his strength. It's funny you talk about his strength because I've watched a lot of podcasts where different players have talked about what playing against Larry Robinson back in the day when he was, younger and who he was. That was one of the most feared guys in the game at the time. That if Larry Robinson came into the scrum, there's a scrum in front of the net and Larry Robinson was there, a lot of the players skated away because they wanted nothing to do with it. And I can personally remember as a kid, it was one of the most, how would you call it? Uh, as a kid, one of the things that stood out in my mind. I literally watched, I couldn't tell you the game. I just remember he literally picked the guy up off the ice, skated him out the blue line, set him down, and pointed at him and said, stay there and don't come back, kind of thing. And then he went back into the scrum again and started pulling guys out. And I just thought, who's this guy that can do that and be, you know, nasty when you need to be, but still be a great defenseman?
Yeah, he was 1976-77. He was a plus 120. So and I mean those are Bobby Orr numbers.
Mhm.
Bobby Orr had, but that's a high number, plus 120. You
Mhm.
do the math. Right now we're even as a team. He was a plus
Mhm.
120. Like that's insane.
And you got to remember, Larry Robinson, 6'4", 225 pounds. He was a big, big man. And I mean, you talk now,
Back in
yeah,
the day, that was
now in the
really big.
NHL, 6'4", 225 pounds, you're just average, right? Average defenseman, higher end of the average. But at 6'4", 225 pounds back then, he was a beast. But having said that, he played with like probably the top
The
three defensemen of all time on a team: Larry Robinson, Serge Savard,
Guy
and
Lapointe.
Guy Lapointe. I mean, you could even throw Pierre Bouchard in there. Pierre Bouchard was pretty good too, but Lapointe was him. They were the top three, and I mean that's scary when you're talking Robinson doing that in '85 and '86. which to me, that wasn't even his prime years.
Yeah,
I just find that amazing.
yeah. His numbers are scary good. You
Mhm.
know, for a guy who didn't have that repertoire or that respect to be an offensive guy, he was just an all round good
Yeah.
defenseman.
But that plus minus number though is just that's free. I mean, he played on some very good offensive teams, but still, I mean, you got to get it that high. That's just
Yeah, when you
unreal.
look at what Kale McCarr is this year, I think he's a plus 45 or 46, and people
Yeah,
are saying that's unreal. You double that, that's a plus 90. He was a
yeah,
plus 120. Like
yeah. That's
that's
almost
taking
three
that to
times the
another
amount.
30%. Yeah,
Yeah,
like that's
yeah,
that's insane. So
yeah.
Larry Robinson.
All righty, excellent question. Actually brings up a lot of good memories as a kid too. Thanks for that question, Steve. So that's going to conclude today's episode. We're going to log off here real quick because we got a hockey game's probably just puck's probably dropping right now. So thanks for watching. Remember, comment, like, share, subscribe, help us with our numbers. Let us know what you think. Again, thanks for watching. And as Steve always says,
Well, we'll give you a go Habs go because it's puck drop and keep your stick on the ice.